Welcome to Monk's Temple. Find your breath, and settle into this moment with me. We're not here to talk about morality in the abstract. We're here to examine a quiet, daily contraction of the heart, the moment we choose to turn away from what is real, and craft something else with our words. This isn't about condemnation. It's about understanding the mechanics of that choice, the weight it creates, and the profound freedom that lies in laying that weight down. We'll weave timeless wisdom from the Buddha's teachings with a modern look at the mind, aiming for a practical, compassionate clarity you can use today. First, let's shift our perspective. We often think a lie is about the words. Buddhism invites us to see it as an event in the mind. It is, fundamentally, an act of inner division. In the moment you choose an untruth, your consciousness splits. One part knows the actual terrain. Another part begins constructing a false map. You now must live in both places at once, the reality you experience and the story you've built. The energy this division requires is your peace of mind. The Buddha's focus on truthfulness, or sakka, is a prescription for wholeness. It is the practice of refusing to create that exhausting, internal civil war. Let's picture this with a new metaphor. Imagine your mind is a vast, clear sky. Your thoughts and feelings are weather systems passing through, some bright, some stormy. Your truthful speech is like a clear, honest report of the current weather. It's raining in me right now. A warm front of joy is moving through. This report doesn't change the weather, it simply acknowledges it. It keeps the sky, the observer, clear and uncontested. A lie is not a different kind of weather. It is the act of installing a massive, complex projector into the sky. You then use it to beam out a convincing image of sunshine while inside, the rain still falls. Your attention is no longer on the authentic experience of the rain, or even on the sky itself. It is consumed with operating the projector, fueling it, adjusting the lenses, and hiding the machinery from view. The lie isn't the false image, it's the entire exhausting apparatus of projection. The goal of this teaching isn't to shame you for the images, but to point to the immense relief of turning the projector off. To simply stand in the rain, or the sunshine, and say, this is what is here. Why would we ever choose to operate such a burdensome machine? The Buddhist analysis is deeply psychological. We project false weather because we are afraid of the consequences of the real forecast. We sense a predator. Two primary predators stalk the human psyche, the fear of punishment, a storm directed at us, and the fear of loss, something valuable being washed away. Consider the fear of punishment. Not always a dramatic rebuke. Often, it's the cold front of someone's disappointment, the sharp wind of their frustration. We learn early that certain truths trigger certain weathers in others, and we scramble to control the climate. I'll share a story. Sam was a talented software developer who missed a deadline. The reason was honest, he'd overestimated his speed and taken on too much. As the due date arrived, his manager asked for the update. Sam's internal sky was a churning anxiety. The truthful weather report was, I'm not finished. I misjudged. But his mind projected forward, his manager's face clouding with irritation, his reputation as a reliable coder dimming, a future project slipping away. The predator of punishment felt real. So, he switched on the projector. The external testing API is down, he said. I'm blocked, but I've alerted the vendor. Should be resolved soon. The image of a competent, blocked by externals developer beamed out. The immediate storm was averted. But Sam now lived under two skies, the inner turmoil of his own failure, and the brilliant, false calm he was projecting. His mental energy was hijacked. He had to monitor the fake API issue, avoid the vendor channel, and maintain the story. The single, sharp pain of admitting a misjudgment was traded for a sustained, low-grade fever of vigilance and isolation. The Buddha's insight is precise. The lie is a symptom of a mind that believes concealment is its only shelter. The path is to discover a shelter so secure, it can withstand any weather, the shelter of integrity. If this exploration of the mind's hidden machinery resonates with you, I invite you to subscribe to Monk's Temple. Together, we learn to turn off the projectors and find peace in the authentic sky. Your subscription is a powerful affirmation of that intention. Now, the second predator, fear of loss. This is the anxiety that truth will create a void. We might lose standing, affection, and opportunity. We lie not to avoid a storm, but to prevent an evaporation. Here, the Buddha's teaching of anicca, impermanence, is our guide. We lie because we are trying to use false words to make the impermanent permanent, to freeze a favorable condition in place. It is like seeing a beautiful, intricate sand mandala and, fearing the wind will scatter it, encasing it in clear, hard plastic. You have saved the image, but you have killed the thing itself, its granular, temporary, flowing nature. The relationship you preserve with a lie is now a plastic replica. The opportunity you secure is built on a brittle foundation. Truthfulness allows the sand to be sand. It allows relationships to breathe and change, it allows success to be rooted in the solid ground of reality, not the quick-drying cement of fiction. And then society suggests a compromise, the white lie. It's presented as a harmless tool, even a compassionate one. The Buddha's framework, with its focus on intention and mental cultivation, allows no such loophole. To see why, imagine your commitment to truth as a single, pure, white thread. It runs through the tapestry of your life. Every time you speak in full alignment, you strengthen that thread. A so-called white lie is not a different colored thread. It is the first, almost imperceptible, fraying. You see one tiny filament separate from the main strand. It seems insignificant. The thread still holds. But the integrity of the cord is compromised. With the next tug of social difficulty, it frays a little more easily. The point of the Buddha's precept is to protect the tensile strength of the entire thread. Once you accept fraying as acceptable, you have changed the fundamental nature of the material from unbreakable to conditionally strong. The guidance is not puritanical. It is engineering wisdom for the soul. Don't fray the thread. How then do we develop the strength to keep our thread intact, to turn off the projector? It begins by studying the safest, most advanced laboratory for human ethics ever designed, the Buddhist monastic community, the Sangha. The Buddha didn't just exhort people to be good. He engineered a culture where truth-telling became the safest, most logical, and most healing option available. So, how do we cultivate the courage for this radical honesty? The answer lies not in willpower, but in environment. The Buddha, in his profound understanding of the human heart, didn't just command truthfulness. He engineered an entire ecosystem where telling the truth became the safest, most logical, and most healing choice. This ecosystem is the Sangha, the monastic community. Its practices are a masterclass in designing psychological safety. Central to this is a ritual often misunderstood as confession. It is better described as acknowledgement within a field of compassionate awareness. Imagine a monk, through a lapse in attention, breaks a minor training rule. The worldly impulse, the predator of fear, says, "Hide it, forget it, let it be a secret stone in your shoe." The Sangha protocol is the antidote. The monk seeks out a brother. The statement is simple, devoid of drama: "Friend, I have transgressed such and such rule. I see it as a fault and will endeavor to restrain myself in the future." Now, witness the critical, transformative response. There is no gasp, no scolding, no lecture. The listening monk might ask for clarity, then offers the liberating phrase, "It is acknowledged. May you exercise restraint." Feel the profound physics of this exchange. The fault is brought from the shadowy realm of secret shame into the neutral, healing light of shared awareness. Punishment is replaced with support for future discipline. The energy bound up in hiding is released. The fault is disarmed, contained, and transformed into a communal lesson. The very fear that breeds lies, the terror of alienation and retribution, is engineered out of the social system. In its place is a profound safety, the certainty that your truth will be met not with destruction, but with an opportunity for guided repair. Your life is not a monastery, but this principle is your blueprint. You must build these pockets of Sangha energy wherever you can, starting within your own mind. Create spaces, in your home, your workplace, your own self-talk, where the safest response to reality is to simply report it, without decorative filters. Consider the story of Ben, a team leader at a design firm. His team was preparing a crucial client presentation. 2 days before the deadline, Ben realized a core statistic in their deck was unverified, potentially incorrect. The old, fear-based script played instantly: "If I tell the team now, it will cause panic. It will look like I failed to check their work. We'll have to scramble. Better to quietly find the correct data and swap it in." This was the projector whirring to life, ready to beam an image of seamless control. But Ben paused. He thought of the Sangha principle of creating a clearing of safety for truth, even inconvenient truth. He called a brief team huddle. "I need to acknowledge a fault in our process," he said. "I've just realized the Johnson metric on slide 7 is unsourced. That's on my oversight in the review. This creates risk, and we now have a day to verify or replace it. I'm sorry for the added pressure. How can we best solve this together?" The room was silent for a moment. Then, instead of panic, a problem-solving energy emerged. A junior designer knew where to find the data. Another offered to rework the surrounding slides if needed. The crisis became a collaborative sprint. By acknowledging the truth, the weather of a mistake, Ben didn't create a storm. He allowed the team to put on their raincoats and work together. He traded the exhausting labor of a solitary cover-up for the empowered clarity of a shared solution. He strengthened the team's thread of integrity, showing that truth is the foundation of real resilience, not a threat to it. This applies with piercing clarity to our inner world. Our most damaging lies are the silent narratives we tell ourselves: "I can't handle this. I am fundamentally flawed." These are projections of false, permanent weather. To practice truthfulness here is to perform the Sangha ritual inwardly. Notice the thought. Don't fight it or believe it. Simply acknowledge it with compassionate neutrality. A thought of overwhelm is present. It is acknowledged. It is a passing cloud. This turns off the most ancient projector, the one that runs on automatic. The fear of loss often fuels these internal deceptions. We lie to ourselves to avoid losing a cherished self-image. The compassionate person who won't admit their own resentment. The competent person who explains away a failure. These self-deceptions feel protective, like a cast on a broken bone. But if the bone has healed and the cast remains, it becomes a prison that weakens the limb. Truthfulness to oneself is the careful removal of the cast, the acknowledgement of the healed, though perhaps changed, structure beneath. Let me share Anya's story. Anya was a yoga teacher known for her serene, gentle classes. Privately, she was battling a period of intense anxiety and irritability. To admit this felt like a professional death sentence, a loss of her identity, her credibility, her students. So, she projected calm. She smiled through her shaking hands. The dissonance was a constant, draining hum. Finally, exhausted, she tried a different way. Before a class, she stood before her students and turned off the projector. Her voice was soft, authentic. Hello everyone. Before we begin, I want to be truthful with you. My own nervous system feels quite frayed today. So, I invite you to join me not in a performance of perfect peace, but in a real practice of finding steadiness within unease. Let's breathe through that together. She didn't overshare, she simply reported the internal weather. The effect was not a loss, but a profound gain. The room's energy shifted from performative to profoundly connected. Students later thanked her for the most real session they'd ever experienced. By risking the loss of an image, she accessed a deeper authority. The authority of shared, authentic human experience. Her truth did not diminish her practice, it embodied its highest principle. She learned that an identity built on a lie is a cage. An identity built on truthful presence, moment to moment, is freedom. The Buddhist teaching on right speech is this integrated system for reducing suffering. It states, your words are not just sounds. They are architects. They can construct labyrinths of separation or clearings of profound meaning. They can weave a tapestry of confusion or spin the strong, white thread of a trustworthy life. Every time you choose the truth, externally or internally, you are choosing integration, clarity, and a peace that does not depend on the maintenance of a fragile fiction. We must now confront the most seductive compromise, the idea of the harmless or white lie. Society packages it as a social lubricant, a kindness. The Buddha's framework, with its laser focus on intention and mental cultivation, offers no such exception. To grasp why, we need a new metaphor, the immune system. Consider your integrity, your wholeness, as having a kind of psychic immune system. Its job is to recognize and reject what is not self, what is foreign to your core truth. Every time you speak in full alignment with what you know and feel, you strengthen this immune response. You affirm the boundary of your authentic self. A white lie is not a different, benign strain of truth. It is the deliberate, conscious introduction of a weak pathogen. You think, this is so small, my system can handle it. It's for a good cause. And initially, it seems fine. But you have just taught your immune system to tolerate a falsehood. You have lowered its defenses. The next time a slightly more potent untruth presents itself, one that serves your ego a bit more, avoids a slightly bigger conflict. Your compromised system is more likely to allow it in. This is how the integrity of the self is slowly eroded, not by a single catastrophic breach, but by a series of small, permitted infections. The Buddha's guidance is prophylactic. It is the wisdom of maintaining a zero-tolerance policy for pathogens of false speech, because the health of the entire organism, your peace, your clarity, depends on it. Let's see this in a contemporary scenario. Maya was planning a weekend getaway with two close friends. When they proposed an expensive hiking lodge, her budget screamed in protest. The pathogen of a white lie was readily available. That sounds amazing, but I think I'm coming down with something that weekend. You two go ahead. A harmless excuse. But it introduces the foreign element. Now she must remember the fiction, dodge follow-up questions, and miss out on a cheaper alternative she might have proposed. More critically, she has weakened her own boundary. She has communicated to herself that her legitimate financial reality is something to be hidden, even from friends. Instead, she practiced integrity as immune response. I love that idea, but honestly, my budget's really tight this month. Is there a more affordable option we could look at, or could we plan a local adventure instead? The truth was clean. It was a statement of her reality, not a rejection of her friends. It invited collaboration. One friend immediately agreed, relieved, as she was also on a budget. The white lie would have created distance, the truth created a deeper, more authentic connection based on real circumstances. The pathogen was rejected, and the system grew stronger. This illuminates the core intention the Buddha emphasized. Ask in the moment before speech, is this meant to connect, or to conceal? The white lie is almost always an act of concealment. Hiding your needs, your limits, your true reaction. Truthfulness is an act of connection, trusting that the relationship can hold the reality of who you are. It builds bonds on the solid ground of what is real, not the shifting sand of what is convenient. But what of truth that is painful? This is where right speech becomes an art form. The Buddha never endorsed brutal honesty used as a cudgel. The teaching is a holistic check. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it timely? Is it spoken with kindness? A painful truth delivered to hurt, to shame, to win, fails the test. The intention corrupts it. It becomes a weaponized pathogen. Thus, the practice resides in the mindful pause. In the space between feeling and speaking, you become the guardian of your immune system. You examine the impulse. Is this a native truth, or an invasive pathogen? If it is true but sharp, how can I deliver it with the intention of healing, not harming? You might frame it. I need to share something difficult because I care about us. This prepares the ground. You are not just transmitting data, you are responsibly introducing a potent agent into a shared emotional space. Consider the story of Arjun, a studio owner whose most talented painter, Lila, had begun submitting work that was rushed and uninspired. The easy path was the weak pathogen, vague praise, hoping she'd self-correct. But that compromised the standards of his studio, the health of the whole. Arjun asked for a meeting. He began with truthful acknowledgement, Lila, your talent is the reason you're here. I have immense respect for your eye. Then, he introduced the difficult truth with care, because of that respect, I have to be honest. The last three pieces haven't met the standard I know you're capable of, or that our gallery expects. This isn't a criticism of you, but of the work. I'm telling you because I believe in you and I want you to succeed here. What's going on? This was truthful, timely, before it became a crisis, intended to be helpful, to salvage her position and his reputation, and delivered with the kindness of genuine investment. The pathogen of vague avoidance was rejected. Lila, tearfully, admitted she was overwhelmed caring for a sick parent. The truth led not to firing, but to flexibility, a reduced load for 2 months. The compassionate truth protected the ecosystem of the studio and deepened their professional relationship. The white lie would have allowed resentment to fester until an explosive rupture. This applies fiercely to our internal narratives. Our most persistent lies are the stories we tell ourselves about our own limitations. I'm not a creative person. I'm bad with money. I always sabotage relationships. These are chronic infections, pathogens we've allowed to colonize our identity. They feel true because the immune system has stopped fighting them. The practice of inner truthfulness is a course of potent medicine. It involves catching the thought and, with compassion, stating the countervailing, often simpler, truth: I am feeling blocked right now. I am learning to manage my finances. I have patterns I am working to understand. You are not lying with affirmations, you are rejecting the broad, false pathogen and replacing it with a specific, accurate, and present moment truth. You are rebuilding your immune response from the inside out. The freedom this brings is tangible. When you stop permitting the small pathogens, you stop living on the defensive. Your energy is no longer consumed by the low-grade fever of maintaining fictions. You experience the vitality of a system operating without internal conflict. You speak, and there is no echo of discrepancy, no second track of anxiety running beneath your words. There is just the clean, single note of what is real. This is the undisturbed peace the Buddha pointed to. A peace that begins with the radical decision to stop infecting your own mind. Now, we arrive at a shadowy cousin of the spoken lie, the silent falsehood. This is the territory of omission, of what is deliberately left unsaid. In the world's courtroom, you might argue that silence isn't perjury. But in the Buddha's court of mental cause and effect, intention is the judge. If your silence is calculated, if its purpose is to mislead, to avoid a consequence, or to allow a false belief to stand, then that silence is not a neutral void. It is an active sculpture, a shape carved out of the space where truth should be. It has weight. It is like knowingly leaving a signpost pointing the wrong way on a trail and then saying, "I didn't tell them to go that way." Your inaction created the harm. The path of right speech concerns itself with the whole landscape of communication, not just the words you utter. Consider the internal mechanism. When you withhold a necessary truth, you create a compartment within yourself. One room holds the full reality. The other is the curated version you've allowed into the world. You must now be the custodian of that partition, remembering what is where, for whom. This is the labor of division. The energy spent on this custodial work is stolen from your vitality, your presence, your peace. The Buddha's way seeks to dissolve all such inner partitions, to return you to the open floor plan of a unified mind. Let me share a story about a man named Daniel. Daniel was in a book club with friends. The group had selected a novel he found pretentious and dull. When his turn came to share his thoughts, the easy, silent falsehood was to offer vague praise. It was really thought-provoking. This would keep the social waters calm. But Daniel felt the familiar internal partition snap into place. The version of himself sitting in that circle would be a fiction, a person who liked a book he actually disliked. So, he chose to furnish the room with his authentic reality. He said, I really wanted to love this one, but I found myself struggling to connect with the prose. I'd love to hear what resonated with you all, though, maybe I missed something. He didn't attack the book or the group's choice. He simply stated his true experience as his own, not as a universal truth. The result was electric. 2 others immediately sighed in relief and agreed. The discussion that followed was the most engaged and authentic they'd had in months, because the unspoken pressure to perform uniform appreciation had been dissolved. Daniel's refusal to omit his truth didn't create conflict. It gave others permission to bring their whole selves to the circle. The silent falsehood of vague praise would have been a social lubricant that eventually gummed up the works of real connection. His honest, kindly framed admission became a solvent, cleaning the mechanism for genuine exchange. This shines a light on a pervasive form of omission, the failure to express our own boundaries or needs. We say, yes, with our lips while our entire being screams, no. We omit the truth of our capacity, our desire, our limit. This is a profound lie we tell to others and, more damagingly, to ourselves. We are silently pointing them down the trail of our resentment. The Buddha's teaching on right action is intertwined with right speech. To act against your own well-being while speaking agreement is a deep discord. Truthful speech here is the courageous act of saying, I cannot, or I need something different. It places the signpost correctly, even if the trail looks less traveled. It respects both the other person and yourself too much to send you both down a path built on a falsehood. Then there is the temporal lie, the I'll deal with it later, that we know, in our quiet center, is a fiction. This is a lie about the most fundamental Buddhist principle, the supremacy of the present moment. When we postpone a necessary truth, a confession, a difficult conversation, a financial reckoning, we are not managing time, we are attempting to flee the now. We are splitting ourselves across time, creating a ghost self in a hypothetical future who will be braver, wealthier, or wiser. The energy required to maintain this fictional future self is drained from the only self that exists, the one here, now, capable of speaking one true sentence. Consider Elena, who had received a significant overpayment from a client due to an accounting error. The silent falsehood was seductive. Say nothing. It's their mistake. You could use the money. But this created an immediate partition. A part of her now had to guard this secret, to rationalize it, to live with the low hum of dissonance. She told herself she'd look into it later, a temporal lie to quiet her present moment unease. A week passed, and the hum grew louder, distracting her from her work. Finally, she saw the cost. Her focus and peace were the price of the extra money. She emailed the client, pointing out the error. The relief was instantaneous and profound. The partition vanished. The energy returned. The client's gratitude and increased trust led to more work. By rejecting the silent, temporal lie, she traded a temporary financial gain for the permanent wealth of an integrated mind and a strengthened professional reputation. She learned that secrets are not stored facts, they are active consumers of your life force. Perhaps the most difficult territory of omission is the failure to admit our own errors. Our constructed self, the ego, is a fragile artifact. To say, I was wrong, feels like taking a hammer to our own sculpture. So we omit. We stay silent hoping the fault will fade. We double down on justification. This protective silence is the wall that prevents intimacy and growth. The Buddha's path requires the demolition of that wall. It asks for the humility to say, "My understanding was incomplete. I acted from a place of confusion. I hurt you." This is not defeat, it is the ultimate victory of reality over story. When a parent can apologize sincerely to a child, or a leader to a team, they are not losing authority, they are trading the brittle authority of infallibility for the unshakable authority of integrity. They place a signpost that reads, "Truth matters more than my ego." Everyone who sees it can breathe easier and walk with more trust. In all these forms, the social omission, the boundary silence, the temporal delay, the unspoken error, the dynamic is the same. We are attempting to manage the world through strategic emptiness. But nature abhors a vacuum, and that emptiness gets filled with the stagnant air of anxiety, resentment, and disconnection. Truthful speech, in word and in timely action, is the act of filling that space with the clean, fresh air of reality. It's the decision to take down the signs you've left pointing in wrong directions, and to stand, openly, at the true crossroads of what is. We come now to the most intimate origin of all untruth, the stories we tell ourselves. This is the quiet, inner narration that shapes our entire world before a single word is spoken to another. In Buddhism, the practice of mindfulness is, at its core, a training in radical self-honesty. It is the discipline of learning to distinguish the raw, flowing data of your experience from the persuasive, often painful, commentary your mind overlays upon it. Think of your awareness as a vast, clear sky. Thoughts and feelings are weather patterns that form, change, and pass through. A self-lie is not just a cloud, it is believing you are the storm. It is the moment you forget the sky and fuse your identity with the temporary turbulence passing through it. "I am anxious" feels like a truth, but it is a fundamental misperception. The deeper truth is, anxiety is present. The sky remains, untouched, capable of holding the weather without becoming it. This shift in perception, from being the weather to being the aware space for the weather, is the first and most profound step in truthful living. We are masterful self-storytellers. We craft narratives about the past that trap us in blame or nostalgia. We project fantasies or fears onto the future and treat them as certainty. Most insidiously, we solidify fluid experience into rigid identity. "I'm a procrastinator. I'm not good enough." These are not truths, they are frozen judgments. They are like taking a single frame from a moving film and declaring it the entire story. The Buddha's teaching of anicca, impermanence, and anatta, not self, directly opposes this. You are not a fixed thing. You are a process. To label yourself is to tell a lie of permanence about a flowing river. Consider the story of Maya. After a painful breakup, her mind generated a compelling, all-encompassing narrative: "I am unlovable. I always ruin good things." This story felt utterly, devastatingly real. It colored every interaction, every quiet moment. She was living inside a fiction of a broken self. One day, in meditation, she was instructed to simply label the thoughts as they arose. Thinking, "I am unlovable," she would silently note. This created a tiny but crucial gap between herself and the story. She was no longer being unlovable, she was observing the thought of unlovability. From that space of observation, a gentle question emerged: is this a fact, or a feeling passing through? This allowed a true memory to surface, moments of deep love and connection from friends, family, even from herself. The monolithic lie, "I am unlovable," cracked, revealing itself as a passing storm of grief and shame, not the permanent climate of her being. The truth was more complex and less absolute: I am hurting from a loss, and in this hurt, feelings of unworthiness are strong. This truthful statement didn't erase the pain, but it freed her from the prison of the story. Pain could be felt and healed. A false identity would have been a life sentence. This inner truthfulness is the bedrock of what is called right speech. When you are not entangled in your own internal fictions, your words to others naturally arise from clarity, not from a need to defend a fragile self-story. You are less likely to speak from a place of reactive hurt because you aren't identifying so completely with the hurt. You are the sky, reporting on the weather, not the weather lashing out. Conversely, when we believe our own inner lies, "I'm a victim, I'm superior, I'm inadequate," our speech becomes a tool to prop up that fiction. We gossip to recruit validation. We criticize to bolster our own shaky standing. We offer false flattery to secure our role in someone else's drama. This speech is born from division and creates more division. The practice, then, is a moment-to-moment homecoming. It is the gentle but firm redirection of attention from the content of the thought to the fact of thinking. It is the question, what is actually happening, before the story about it began. It is the courage to replace the dramatic, egocentric narrative with a simpler, more factual one. "He hurt me" becomes, "I feel hurt by what he said." "This is a disaster" becomes, "This is a significant challenge." "I am a failure" becomes, "This attempt did not succeed." This is not positive thinking. It is precise thinking. It is the alignment of your internal language with the actual, measurable dimensions of your experience. The relief it brings is not the relief of a problem solved, but the relief of a burden dropped, the exhausting burden of maintaining a personal fiction about who you are and how the world works. When you cease to lie to yourself, you walk through the world with a lighter step. You are no longer secretly at war with reality, trying to force your story onto the fluid, changing truth of what is. You meet each moment with a mind that is, finally, a clear mirror, reflecting what is actually there, not the ghost of a story you keep telling in the dark. We have navigated the inner landscape of self-story. Now, let's bring this understanding into the most dynamic field, our relationships. Here, truthfulness meets its greatest test and yields its most profound rewards. A relationship is like a shared garden. The quality of the soil, the trust, the safety, the mutual respect, determines what can grow there. Every word is a seed. A lie, any lie, is a seed coated in poison. It may sprout quickly, giving the illusion of growth, but its roots secrete a toxin that slowly contaminates the soil itself. Truthful speech, even when it's the seed of a difficult conversation, is organic. It may take longer to break the surface, but its roots clean and aerate the soil, making the whole garden more fertile for everything else you wish to grow together. The Buddha's wisdom frames relationships not as bonds of possession, but as fields of mutual cultivation. Your speech is one of your primary tools for tending this field. Speech that is false, harsh, divisive, or frivolous is like using a tool that's rusty, jagged, or broken. It damages the tender plants you're trying to nurture. Right speech is the well-maintained tool, clear, sharp when it needs to be for pruning, gentle for grafting, and always used with mindful intention. The fear that leads us to lie in relationships is almost always a fear of the garden's fragility. If I tell the truth about this need, this mistake, this feeling, the whole garden might die. So, we reach for the poison seed, the convenient untruth, hoping to preserve the surface beauty while unknowingly poisoning the roots. But a garden built on contaminated soil is doomed to eventual withering. The truth, however difficult, is the only amendment that can revitalize the ground. Let me share a story about a couple, Anya and Mark. Anya had always been the primary planner in their relationship, organizing trips, managing calendars. Over years, Mark's passive compliance began to feel like disinterest to her, a silent poison of resentment building in their soil. The easy lie was to continue, to bury her need for a partnered effort, and to occasionally snipe about having to do everything. Instead, she chose to plant an organic seed, carefully and at a calm time. Mark, I need to talk about something that's affecting my happiness. When I carry all the mental load of planning our life, I start to feel lonely in our relationship, like I'm a manager and not a partner. I don't think you intend that, but it's my truth. I would love to find a way for us to share that load more. This was not an accusation, it was a truthful report of her inner weather and an invitation to co-cultivate. Mark, who had simply fallen into a habit, was startled but receptive. The truth, though uncomfortable, cleared the air of unspoken resentment. It led to a practical system for shared planning. The garden of their relationship didn't die, it grew new, stronger structures for cooperation. The poison seed of continued silence would have led to a slow, toxic decline. The organic seed of compassionate truth triggered a renewal. This extends to all connections. With a friend, the poison seed might be gossip, a false sense of intimacy built on discussing a third party. The organic seed is to speak directly to the friend about your own experience. With a colleague, the poison seed is taking credit or shifting blame. The organic seed is clear, accountable communication that builds professional trust. In each case, the lie, active or through omission, trades long-term soil health for a short-term, often selfish, yield. But what of truth that must prune? Sometimes, for the health of the garden, a diseased branch must be cut. This is the territory of setting boundaries or ending relationships that are fundamentally harmful. Here, truthfulness must be paired with courageous compassion. The lie is to let the disease fester, to avoid the sharp cut, to stay in a withering arrangement out of fear or guilt. The truthful, compassionate act is to make the clean cut, this dynamic is harming me, and I can no longer participate in it. This is not a lie born of anger, it is a truth spoken from self-respect and, paradoxically, respect for the other person's ability to face reality. It is the ultimate act of tending your own plot so you do not spread the blight. The practice in relationship is a constant calibration. Before speaking, especially in charged moments, we can learn to ask the gardener's questions. What seed am I about to plant? Is this truthful and helpful? What is my intention for this garden? To connect, to hurt, to control, to heal. Is this the right season for this seed? Is this the timely moment, or am I speaking from reactive heat or cold withdrawal? This slows down the reactive mind and allows the wiser, cultivating mind to choose the tool and the seed. There is a profound Buddhist principle called Brahmavihara, the sublime abodes. They are love, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. Truthful speech in relationships is the vehicle for these qualities. You speak truth with love, not as a weapon. You speak difficult truth out of compassion for the long-term health of the other and the relationship. You speak truth to share in sympathetic joy, not to diminish another's happiness. And you speak truth from a place of equanimity, not attached to a specific outcome, but rooted in the integrity of the act itself. When you tend the gardens of your relationships this way, you create ecosystems of profound trust. In such a garden, there is no need for the exhausting work of maintaining false fronts or decoding hidden meanings. You can be, and allow others to be, rooted and real. The fruits of such a garden, deep connection, unwavering support, mutual growth, are the true richness of a human life. And it all begins with the decision to plant only clean seeds, to use your speech not as a weapon or a mask, but as a careful, loving tool of cultivation. We have tended the gardens of relationship. Now, we must address the most pervasive and challenging field of all, the digital world. This is a landscape where the very architecture can encourage a unique form of fragmentation, the curation of a secondary self. Our online presence is often less a reflection and more a carefully edited projection. This is not inherently dishonest, but it creates a potent breeding ground for the habits of false speech. The principles of the Buddha, however, are not confined to ancient villages. They are a timeless operating system for the human mind, applicable in any realm, including the digital. Consider your social media feed. It is, in essence, a stream of speech, words and images broadcast to a wide audience. The dynamic of the like and the share can subtly train us to value approval over authenticity. We begin to tailor our speech, our posts, our comments, not from an internal truth, but from an anticipated external reaction. This is right speech in reverse. Instead of speech emanating from a wise and compassionate mind, it becomes speech designed to manipulate the minds of others for validation, status, or influence. The internal split is familiar. The true self experiences a mundane Tuesday with its small joys and irritations. The curated self posts a breathtaking sunset photo with a profound quote, implying a depth of experience that may not fully align with the reality of scrolling in pajamas. Again, this is not a lie in the classic sense, but it is a move away from integrated truthfulness toward performed identity. The Buddha's teaching on intention, satana, is our guiding light here. Before posting, before commenting, before hitting send on a reactive email, we can insert the same mindful pause we aspire to in face-to-face conversation. We can ask, what is my intention here? Is it to connect authentically? To share something genuinely useful or beautiful? Or is it to portray an image, to provoke a reaction, to win an argument, or to numb a feeling of loneliness? The digital realm, with its distance and illusion of anonymity, makes it dangerously easy to let intentions slide into the shadows. Let me tell you about a man named David. David, in his physical life, was kind and measured. Online, however, he had a habit of diving into political comment sections. His intention, he told himself, was to debate ideas. But when he looked honestly at the fiery feeling in his chest as he typed a cutting rebuttal, he saw a different intention: to prove he was right, to humiliate the other side, to feel a surge of intellectual superiority. His digital speech was causing a ripple of agitation in his mind and contributing to the toxic climate of the platform. It was a form of wrong speech, divisive, harsh, and rooted in delusion, the delusion that a comment section argument changes hearts. He decided to apply the precept. Before commenting, he made a simple rule: he had to state his true intention aloud. "My intention is to make this person feel stupid," he'd hear himself say. The truth of it was jarring. More often than not, he'd delete the draft. On the rare occasion his intention was truly, "I want to clarify a factual point with kindness," he would post it. His online experience transformed from a source of agitation to one of mindful choice. He was no longer fragmenting himself into a real David and a digital gladiator David. He was bringing his values into the digital village. This also applies to the passive consumption of digital speech, the endless scroll. Mindless scrolling is often an attempt to speak a silent lie to ourselves about our own boredom, anxiety, or lack of direction. It says, "I am engaging with the world," while the truth may be, "I am avoiding my own mind." Truthfulness here might mean acknowledging the impulse, setting a timer, or choosing to close the app and sit with the discomfort that motivated the reach for the device. It is treating your own attention with the same integrity you aspire to in your speech. Then there is the realm of digital omission, the read receipt on a message you're avoiding, the crafting of an absence to create a desired effect. This is the silent falsehood translated into binary code. The same principles apply. Is your silence intentional manipulation? If so, it carries the karmic weight of any lie. A more truthful, though perhaps more vulnerable, path is a brief response: "I've seen your message and need some time to think about my reply," or "I'm not in a space to have this conversation right now, can we connect tomorrow?" This is digital Sangha building, creating pockets of authentic communication even through a medium that favors performance. The digital world is not separate from our spiritual life. It is a new territory where our old tendencies, for craving, aversion, and delusion, play out at lightning speed. The practice of right speech gives us the framework to navigate it with sanity. It invites us to use these powerful tools not as agents of further self-division and societal discord, but as extensions of our commitment to truth, kindness, and genuine connection. It asks us to be just as real in the pixelated glow of a screen as we aspire to be in the warm light of a shared room. For in the end, the mind that types, posts, and scrolls is the same mind that seeks peace. There is no partition in your consciousness between online and offline. There is only one mind. And its liberation depends on its unity, its commitment to truth, in every world it inhabits. We have journeyed together through the many landscapes where truth and untruth take root. In the private theater of the mind, in the shared garden of relationships, and in the digital world's curated glow. We've seen the lie as an act of inner division, a burdensome projector, a poison seed, a compromise of our psychic immune system. And we have seen truth as the clear sky, the smooth stone, the clean seed, the strong white thread, the path back to wholeness. Now, we arrive at integration. How does this practice, in all its facets, become not just an idea but the very ground you walk on? The Buddha's path is not a list of rules to obey, but a set of tools for awakening. Truthfulness, or sakha, is both a tool and a result. You use the tool of mindful speech to clear away the debris of falsehood, and in the cleared space, you discover a natural, unshakable integrity that was always there. It is the peace of having nothing to hide, from others, and most importantly, from yourself. Think of it as learning to play a resonant instrument. At first, every note of truth feels awkward. Your fingers fumble. The notes are out of tune with the expectations of the room. You are tempted to mime playing, to pretend the music is flowing when it's not. This is the stage of effort, of applying the precept even when it's difficult. You plant the clean seed even when the poisoned one is more familiar. You report the internal weather even when you wish it were different. But with consistent, compassionate practice, something shifts. The instrument becomes an extension of you. You no longer think about where to place your fingers, you feel the music moving through you and expressing itself. This is when truthfulness ceases to be a discipline and becomes a disposition. You don't decide not to lie, the very impulse to falsify loses its power because you have directly tasted the freedom of the alternative. The relief of the clear sky is so preferable to the labor of the projector that the choice becomes self-evident. You speak truth not because you should, but because you have come to trust that it is the only way to remain in your own peaceful presence. This is the promise held within the Buddhist teachings. The entire Noble Eightfold Path is a path of integration. Right view and right intention align your understanding and your heart's aim. Right speech, right action, and right livelihood align your expression in the world. Right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration stabilize and unify the mind that does all of this. Truthful speech is the critical pivot point where your inner understanding meets the outer world. It is the test and the expression of your integration. So, what does this integrated life look like in the mundane flow of a day? It is the quiet confidence of the person who can say, "I don't know," in a meeting without flinching. It is the gentle strength of the parent who can admit a mistake to their child. It is the clean clarity of ending a relationship that cannot hold truth, not with drama, but with respectful finality. It is the comfort of sitting with a friend in silence, with no need to fabricate chatter. It is the energy you reclaim. Energy once spent on managing narratives, remembering alibis, and calming the anxiety of potential exposure, now available for creation, for connection, for simple presence. There will still be moments where the old fear arises. The predator of punishment or loss will still cast its shadow. The practice is not to never feel fear, but to recognize it as weather. To see the thought, it would be easier to lie, and in that seeing, to remember the clear sky. To choose, once more, the smooth stone of truth. And with each choice, the muscle of integrity grows stronger. The cleared space within you widens. Let me leave you with one final, anchoring image. Imagine you are walking through a forest at night with a lantern. The lantern is your commitment to truthfulness. The path is your life. When you swing the lantern wildly, speaking harsh truths, confessing unnecessarily to relieve your own guilt, using truth as a weapon. The light jerks around, creating terrifying, looming shadows. You see monsters everywhere and lose your way. This is misguided truth. When you cover the lantern, hiding, omitting, fabricating, you are plunged into complete darkness. You stumble, lost and afraid, at the mercy of every unseen root and stone. This is the lie. But when you hold the lantern steady, right before you, with a calm and gentle hand, it illuminates just the next step on the path. It shows you what is actually there. A route to step over, a stone to walk around, a smooth patch where you can move with ease. It doesn't show you the entire forest, nor does it need to. It shows you exactly what you need to see to walk safely, clearly, and without fear. This is right speech. This is mindful truthfulness. It is not about illuminating every corner of the past or future with brutal glare. It is about providing a steady, reliable light for the next right step in front of you, and the next, and the next. This is the path the Buddha illuminated. It is a path walked one truthful step at a time. It begins right where you are. It begins with the next word you speak, the next thought you hold about yourself, the next choice between the clean seed and the poisoned one. So, as we conclude our time together at Monk's Temple, I offer you this simple encouragement: hold your lantern steady. Tend your inner garden with care. Choose the smooth stone. And walk on, into the clear and truthful life that awaits you. May your steps be light, your mind be clear, and your heart be at peace. Thank you for walking this path of reflection.